From the Hole Behind Midnight by Clinton Boomer. Stupid dire warnings of imminent doom. They always put me in a bad mood.
Welcome back to the Reading Room Ruffians, your favorite library podcast. It's Mallory, and I'll be driving this true crime train. My BFF Ariel, my own personal little mermaid, is here with me.
I was not prepared for that intro.
Our Supreme Overlord Carla is finally here to attempt to survive the crimes. Finally here. I don't know.
Finally here.
Finally.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe
knows?
I won't survive.
We are recording from our library in Jackson County, West Virginia. Zach, today's detective, is joining us from Seattle, Washington.
Oh, dang, what's that thing Sherlock Holmes says? Elementary,
It's elementary, my dear
Watson.
Watson.
How come I was the only one who didn't get a true crime kind of intro?
Because I did it really fast. I was panicking.
I want to see them bleeding.
Ooh, even better.
I mean, you still have time. We can splice it. So my nonfiction book for today was I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. It is her obsessive journey to finding the Golden State Killer. And I would like to say that this was like posthumously published. She died at age 46 in her sleep. And it was like coronary artery or something like that.
Coronary artery disease.
When did this happen? Just like recently?
2016, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And so this was before they actually found out who the Golden State Killer was. So, yeah. It's very heavy. And so before we get started, I do want to say, if you're not a true crime person, this is probably not going to be for you. It's not super gruesome, but it is heavy. And it does talk a lot about the trauma that people experienced. And it does...
We probably need trigger warnings on this one.
Yeah. It does talk about rape and assault, burglary, murder, all the good stuff.
Kind of stalking, stuff of that sort.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And there's more than one serial killer mentioned in this because at the time, police did not talk to each other. So it was all just assumed these are like 8 or 9 different people. Some of them are different people, but most of them were not. One. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I do want to say I haven't actually gotten this finished. It has been heavy, and I am almost finished. I just have been trying to do bits and pieces. It's gone a lot faster than I thought it would. But I think I'm perfectly fine not having finished this book by the time we talk about this because there is so much. I mean, I think he had like over 50 rapes.
Yeah, it was a lot.
13 or 14 murders. And then like 150 something burglaries from like, I don't know, like 1974 to 86 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And this...
He was active.
Very.
Yeah, that's only 12 years. That's a lot.
It was like, it started off as like 1 rape a month and then started going up in numbers per month, like how many people he would rape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It did. It just started out as just a single woman that he would rape. And it was very methodical. He knew the layout of the houses. He made sure he wasn't seen and
knew how to turn off lights and came prepared with ropes and he was a very patient man.
Very, very patient. Yeah.
Yeah. He would like, I don't know if this is going to ruin your notes or whatever, but one of the things that he did that I thought was one of the most messed up things was he would blindfold the people, tie them up, and assault them. And then he would sit for hours quietly, and they would think he left. And then he would startle them with some loud noise or a move. So it'd be like, yeah, I'm still here.
Legitimately, he did
Terrorized.
that. Yeah. And it wasn't even just to continue terrorizing him. It was also so that the next person wouldn't call fast enough if he decided to leave sooner. It was legitimately just they would wait hours and hours even after he had left because they wouldn't know. And so that gives him more time to get away from police.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's wild. And it's a very interesting case because he left so much evidence behind.
Yeah.
He wasn't like super thorough in cleaning up or anything. I mean, 9 times out of 10, he would raid their refrigerators or cabinets, eat food, and then leave it.
Yep.
He left a lot
Tools
of things
that he used
behind.
to get in. Yeah.
I mean, he never, like, he always left DNA. I mean, obviously they didn't have DNA back then, but yeah, he did a lot that just, I don't know how he wasn't caught. And nobody really knows how he wasn't caught. He just, it's a wild story, and it's very interesting because so many people saw him, saw his face, had encounters with him, like heard his voice, but almost none of them agreed on what he looked like.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did he actually like change his appearance, or did he just?
No.
They were so traumatized.
He wore a ski mask a lot.
He did wear a ski mask a lot, but there were people who would see him sometimes. There were a couple, I want to say there were like maybe 7 or 8 people, maybe more than that over the span of time, who did see him before he actually had a chance while he was still scoping them out.
Yeah.
And it was normally agreed that he had light hair.
Yeah.
And people who encountered him like out and about said he was always about 5'9". And that was pretty much the only thing that was ever consistent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing else.
Well, that's not much of a.
Yeah.
Going to round up every 5'9" light-colored hair person in the vicinity.
Yes. And so it's wild the things, how much he left behind, and then also how little. Because,
I'm surprised there weren't fingerprints.
There were.
But he didn't have any on file.
Yeah. And that was, they ended up catching him specifically because from like the family tree DNA, that was how, and that was it.
Wow.
That's
Nothing
ridiculous.
else. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like mega incompetence on the cop's part.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand this.
Well, he was a police officer himself, a former police officer. So I think that probably has something to do with like what kept him so hidden.
Yeah, he kind of knew.
He did know
like
a lot.
where they were going and what the,
patrolling.
Well, and other police officers wouldn't probably suspect him because he was one of their own. So, and you don't, I mean, I wouldn't expect librarians to be out there killing people, and they could be like,
yeah,
I'd understand it sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not investigating though either. So if he knew any of these guys and just was like,
Yeah. And Michelle McNamara is actually the one who coined his
name,
his moniker, the Golden State Killer.
He was the ear at first.
The ear?
The East Area Rapist.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was the ear.
Because it was specifically just that part of California. It wasn't ever, he was contained in the East area for a big chunk of time, and he slowly branched out to the southern part of the East Bay or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually for a long time there, I think so it was the EAR first, and then by the time they figured out that it was the same person, this was once DNA was finally like a thing.
Yeah.
They figured out that he was the original Night Stalker of one of the southern areas that he was at. And so that connected all of those. And by the time he got to the southern was whenever he really started like murdering people. And he went from just like a single woman to actually then terrorizing couples, a male and female couple, which is very highly unlikely because it's a lot more to manage, and it ups the risk factor of getting caught, of somebody else noticing. Never.
What he did though with the dishes, that he would stick a teacup and a saucer on the man's back and said that if he heard the dishes move, that he would kill everybody.
He would also plant.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He would also do that like in front of doors, entryways into the house, into and out of the house.
As like early alarm systems.
Yeah. And he always tied the man up first and then the woman.
Yep.
And then he
what was she doing? Why?
he usually had a gun or a knife or something.
Yeah.
And what he did was
he would make her tie the husband
Yes.
up.
Oh, okay.
and he would bust in the middle of the night, and this wasn't his original MO, but he started waking them up with a flashlight essentially in your face. So you don't see.
Yeah,
You're
so
just
you're
kind
like all
of like
distorted and
what's
stuff.
happening. And then he would say, if you make a sound, I'll kill you. Or if you don't listen to me, I'll kill you. It was always like that specific set of phrases. And he repeated it in such a way that was, it would freak me out. I don't know.
People have got to figure out, though, that chances are you're going to die anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to fight.
Most of them just went along with it. And there were a couple of times that
they were lucky because they,
Yeah. There were a couple of times that people did really fight back. And a couple of the couples did escape.
Mm-hmm.
But not without severe injuries and severe trauma. So,
I figure they all had severe trauma.
yes, absolutely. It just is, yeah.
There was one man, him and his wife, had been attacked, and the police got there, and he's like, "What's your hurry? He's already gone."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh."
Well, yeah, because I don't know, I'm not going to get into the gun control thing, but you need to be able to defend yourself because it takes the police a while to get there.
Yeah.
This is the other thing he would do. He would break into the house before when nobody was there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he would take everything out that
He would
could
take
be used
bullets out of
against him.
guns.
He would take bullets out of guns. He found everything in these houses. He knew the houses before
He
he
knew
attacked.
your
Terrifying.
routine.
Yeah.
He knew your house.
Yep.
Everything.
Terrifying.
And they think a lot of times he found his victims from like real estate postings, like people were moving in. He would go to open houses. And then he would take a long time to case before he attacked.
Mm-hmm.
He knew people, he knew where he saw
Messed
them.
up.
Yeah, they would and sometimes he would call people beforehand
Yeah.
and torment them that way. And there was one time, I think it was after they connected the ear to the Night Stalker, the original Night Stalker. He had called one of his former victims and said, "Remember when we played?"
Yeah.
It's just terrifying.
Yeah. And one of the people he was assaulting, he was like, "You don't remember me, but I remember you."
Yeah.
He's like, "It's been too long, but I still remember you."
Oh my God. Please tell me they killed this guy.
No, he's serving
he's still alive.
like 12 or 26 life sentences or something like that. There's
He
no
needs to
possible.
just be like,
yeah.
Taken out.
Yes.
It's
Some
California.
people just need killing.
Yeah. So it's a lot, but his MO was very similar the whole time. It's wild how many things people got away with before
The
they
internet
started talking.
communication.
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
that's true. That's true. Back then
Because
it was more
A lot of them thought,
isolated and compartmentalized,
Yeah.
and you didn't make the connection.
yeah, a lot of them thought, like this has never happened in our area. We can't believe this is happening, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't talk to anybody else.
Well, it's traumatic too.
And then sometimes one of the cold case guys who picked up this case, finally Paul Holes, who actually is the one who discovered who the Golden State Killer was, which is really cool because he worked on it for like 25 years. And he worked with Michelle as well. So he's very prevalent in this book. He essentially just stumbled across these cases
Mhm.
and was like, this kind of sounds familiar. So he called around, and I want to say that like 2 or 3 of the first precincts he called were like, no, that's never happened here, even though he knew for a fact they had. They
So they just
didn't-
lied.
Yeah, they didn't want to seem, I don't know, like they failed at something, or it was just like,
See, I think that's the thing too. Like, there's a lot of pride there.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay, dude. If as long as you catch them, what's it
Yeah.
matter if you screwed up beforehand?
yeah, I don't know. I'll never get that. But yeah, it was kind of a struggle, and there was, like I said, there was so much he left behind, and it's so wild. How
Yeah,
it
they
took-
said that he would just ransack their house and eat their food.
Yeah. Yeah. And he took things like, he would always say that he wanted money, but he never took anything of actual value. He always took something of sentimental value
Mhm.
or that was pretty worthless, like driver's license. One time he took cufflinks Another time, bracelets, like things that weren't really
like
Just
family
trophies,
heirloom
just
type
trophies.
stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes he would leave those things at other victims' houses.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah.
That is like, this guy is psychotic.
That's kind of
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Just takes the trophies and leaves them somewhere else.
I've gotten goosebumps like reading this entire book, and I'm glad he's caught. And I want to say Michelle did a fantastic job in writing about this case. She spent a lot of her life doing this. She was married to Patton Oswalt, and she would do...
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, right? I didn't know that.
Of all the people, okay.
I know. I thought that was wild. But she studied this case while her husband and her daughter were asleep. That's what she did in her spare time. She didn't really work on it during the day. And it was just, she would stay up into the wee hours, and she would come up with links and finding things that just is primo detective work from somebody like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
she created a whole website for this kind of stuff.
Wow.
Uh-huh, yeah.
What was it called?
I think a true crime diary.
True crime something.
Something like that. And she was very methodical in how she prepared and explained things. She wasn't glorifying anything, because sometimes you can run into that with true crime stuff. A lot of TV shows do that. Some books do it. But how she talks about stuff is very cut and dry. And she really focuses. She is able to somehow get into the killer's minds, but also the victims and the police. It's not something that you're just like, you're wondering what one person or the other is thinking. Like, you always kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm actually going to read this first quote from her. And it stuck with me from the beginning. I love reading true crime, but I've always been aware of the fact that as a reader, I am actively choosing to be a consumer of someone else's tragedy.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Makes you
wow.
feel
Yeah.
kind of bad, huh?
Yeah, I know.
It
Yeah.
makes you feel bad, but it's also just kind of like, what's the mindful?
It
like
gives you kind of weapons in your wheelhouse so you
Yeah.
can defend yourself maybe later.
Yeah. And it also helps you remember that even whenever you're into this stuff, like, it shouldn't just be because, oh man, who did it? And like, why?
Yeah.
And like, she wanted to know who did it, but she didn't
She wanted to be mindful of the victims.
Yes. Like, she didn't care who he was. She just wanted him caught.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Like, they really...
Yeah, she said specifically she didn't care what he looked like. She didn't care what his name was.
Yeah.
She cared that he was caught.
Yep. And she worked hard to do that. And I think a lot of times you do run into that in true crime. People really, once you find out who the killer is, it's everything about him, and then you forget about a lot of the victims.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this is actually a thing that I think a lot of true crime people have started doing more recently, is not talking about the specific names or whatever of the killers.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people actually recently, before I even started reading this, where they're like, oh, don't forget the victims.
Yeah.
Don't forget what he did.
Yep.
Yep. There's been a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more prevalent with like the mass shooters too. They will just not even say their name a lot of times nowadays, because you don't want to give them the time of day.
No. Yeah. Because it is, sometimes it really is, they just want the fame.
Yep.
They want
And
to be
Don't give it to 'em.
scary. They want to be what people fear. And yeah, whenever you don't give that out, that's always.
Yeah. Like Zodiac, for example, back in the day.
Yeah.
He was so obsessed with being like well known and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He just, yeah.
I don't
kept
know if
doing
you got
stuff
to this
and being
part.
more elaborate about like that.
Yeah. At one point, he called a police station and just like kind of laughed and said, I'm, what did he say? What did he say? Night Stalker? Or did he say ear? I
I
can't
think he
remember.
said, I'm the ear.
Yeah. And then hung up, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was the only time I've heard that mentioned.
And that would be like would you take that seriously?
Mm-hmm.
On hindsight, you should, but at the time, you're like, this is some nut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
They probably get tons of calls like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's just, it's really crazy.
I gotta say, whoever came up with the name Ear, that's just bad.
Yeah. When they kept on putting it in the newspaper, the ear has struck again or whatever. I'm like, seriously, guys, come on.
Honestly, I think that's pretty good, though, because it's not a good name. He probably
is true.
wanted a good name,
Yeah.
and
Like
he didn't
Night
get
Stalker
one. Yeah,
is a
he
cool
loved Night Stalker.
Yeah.
It's like,
But they-
I mean, that sounds cool. I mean, Ear sounds dumb. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
if you're gonna
I
pick
agree
a
with
bad
you.
name, pick an insulting name.
yeah. I kind of feel like that would be insulting to be known as the Ear.
It's like the Crimson Chin.
Yeah.
No, the Crimson Chin's amazing though.
The Crimson Chin.
No. And it's been really cool hearing about all of the work that went into this, because this spanned more than just 25 years, but Paul Holes pretty much by himself spent 25 years on it. And that's wild to me, how long he spent taking time to go through all of this stuff. And a lot of it turned into dead ends. Because it's like, did he know he was dropping stuff that meant absolutely nothing?
Probably.
Or did he just like not even, because it seemed really like he didn't care what he dropped. Like, and it just,
really?
Yeah, it kind of just,
Well, I don't know. I would think with all the other meticulous stuff he did, that he would know that
Yeah.
this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I'll
Maybe
just
he
leave
just
it.
knew that it didn't matter.
yeah,
Or that's true.
that's true too. It just is, it's one of those things. He was so intelligent,
Mhm.
but it also is like he was careless a lot too. And so it's just,
Maybe he was arrogant along with it. Intelligence. It's like, well, they're not going to,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. They're not going to do anything. They
And
can't
I'm
find
getting
me.
to the spot where,
And they wouldn't have.
yeah, no, they wouldn't have. I'm getting to the spot where they kind of at this point are thinking that he's a little cuckoo and like getting progressively worse. So in 2011, one of the crimes went across railroad tracks. And the original crime scene investigator found a bunch of evidence and just kind of put it in bags and didn't really acknowledge all of it. And one of the bags of things he found on the railroad tracks was 2 pieces of notebook paper and a really meticulously drawn map that had like houses and, water and like all this stuff. And, like he noticed on the back, Paul Holes did, that there were doodles on the back, but he didn't really pay attention to a lot of that. He wanted to really focus on the map to see if that meant anything.
Well, yeah. Uh-huh.
And one of the pieces of paper was essentially the first sentence, and it was like a ripped piece of paper, and it said, mad is the word. That was it. That was all he could make off of it.
But bird is the word.
I know, right? Yeah. And the second one was essentially, it was kind of like a hate note talking about in 6th grade, a teacher made the writer repeat sentences over and over, and that made him so angry, and he'd never hated somebody more. And so he was looking at the map in his office, and a coworker of his had come in and was kind of like discussing stuff with him. And he goes, Paul. He's like not really paying attention reading this map. Paul. And finally goes, Paul, look at the back of the map. And so he turns it around, and it's not just doodles. There's like really unintelligible words. He can see the name Melanie, kind of. But the most prevalent thing is on the back, and written very harshly, is the word punishment with multiple T's. Yeah. And so he's convinced that this means something at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And, he doesn't know how or why. And, this is years after any of this happened. But I haven't continued on with that. That's kind of where I've left right now. And I think I have like 25% of the book left. But there is so much in this book. And it kind of jumps around sometimes, but for the most part, it starts at one of the victims of his, like, one of the first murders that he did. She was like a very blunt woman, and she was her family was from Germany, and she had married her husband, who was the character that the person that they're talking about. His name, she doesn't use real names.
Mhm.
So, like his name is Dave, and he's a police officer. He's just fresh out of the academy, and he's at his brother's house, and his brother's wife has been murdered. And it kind of talks about him and how he and his brother were kind of like at odds, specifically because Dave was a little bit jealous of his brother. And it just was like one of those things. And now he's at their house, their brand new house, that really just made him feel envious. And
Did he kill his brother's wife?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. She just, that was one of his first victims, the Golden State Killers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was
Dave
there.
was not the Golden State Killer.
Right. No.
Okay.
His name was like Joseph
Here,
D'Angelo
yeah, I'll
or
look it
something.
up.
Yeah. It's like Joseph D'Angelo Jr.,
Yeah.
something like that. And
Oh, that's the problem right there. It's the junior.
yeah. But it goes through a lot of their lives. And even if it's not specifically somebody who was directly related to them, it was somebody who had to deal with the aftermath. And, this was before crime scene cleanup was a thing. And so he volunteered to go in and clean up his brother's house. And his then girlfriend helped him, who was a nurse. And he leaves the house after cleaning it up. And he looks back at the house and remembers the first time he pulls in there and says, says to himself, wow, my brother has really made it. And then just loses it. Like, he went through that whole thing, the whole crime scene just fine. And then thinks of that and just loses it. And it's pretty sad.
Okay, so his name was Joseph James D'Angelo, but he got married in 1973 and started killing in 1974.
Was his wife still alive?
His wife is still alive.
Wow.
Mhm.
They were married for, I think it said 40 years and had 3 children together. And she did not know that he was a serial killer and that he had raped people. And she now works as a divorce attorney in Sacramento, California.
Good for her.
Oh my God. I would just I don't think I would ever feel clean after finding that out.
Yeah. That's
No,
like
that'd be messed up.
it's like
Yeah.
the BTK killer's wife and kids never really knew. That's wild to me too. I don't know. I listened to the daughter's book.
I can't believe they actually have families and live like
Mhm.
what appears to be
Normal
a
Almost
life.
all of these serial killers do.
Yeah.
Almost all of them do.
And he was, I want to say that he was like a security guard or something. Like he worked with police or something.
Yeah, but also, like, this was back in the day before cell phones, before any sort of like
True.
way to keep
That's
track
true.
of your
Yeah.
family members, So be like, oh, I had to work later, or oh, I'm going to go out and do this thing
Yep.
with my friends or whatever,
Now we
and
have-
then there's no follow up.
Yeah.
Now we have Life 360
Yep.
where you can track everybody.
Thank goodness.
Which in hindsight is kind of not horrible because then, somebody got kidnapped or something like that and they had their phone with them, that would be good.
Yeah.
But you could also not get away with murder as
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
Real bummer there.
Yeah, which is
Leave
good.
your
I don't
phone
know,
in your
just-
house,
I was
guys.
gonna say, just
People
don't take
still
your
do
phone.
get away with murder. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
they
still
do.
happens. It's
They
Oh
still
do.
yeah, I
happens.
know, I know.
I don't know. I have kind of
Yeah,
mixed
but
feelings.
there's no serial killers hardly anymore. There's still some that
I was
can
gonna say
happen
there
occasionally, but
apparently
very
are
rare.
serial killers, like more than you would think of, because you don't hear about them. Like
It's
there's not
big
as
news.
notorious ones,
Yeah.
like Ted Bundy or
Yeah.
Golden State Killer, whatever, the Zodiac. But I've Googled it because I thought, why is there no more serial killers? And there apparently are quite a few still.
They just don't make the news.
They don't.
I
We
kind
got
of have
more
mixed
spree
feelings
killers too.
Mm-hmm.
about how they found him. I mean, I'm glad they found him. I don't think he should be locked up. I think he should have just been, immediately.
Yeah.
done away with. But the fact that it was 23andMe, it's like, isn't that supposed to be private information?
Yeah. And so there's kind of like a weird thing like behind the ethics or whatever of that. But it's a kind of similar how they found the BTK killer. Like so in that book, she talks about basically her life growing up with her dad and how close she and her dad were. And that, like, the older she got, and especially after looking back, she realized that there were a lot of signs that he was not as fantastic and wonderful as she and they all thought. But I think she was, like, in college or something at one point and had given blood. And then she went and gave blood, like, donated. She gave blood. They were doing, like, DNA testing for specifically looking for the BTK killer. And she was like, I'm not going to be related to him. And so, like...
Oh, she knew they were testing those.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But they went and checked from her college as well. Like, for some reason, they ended up going from, like, where she voluntarily gave the blood to check that she wasn't related to the killer to her college, who then was like, sure, here's this information. And so she struggled with that a lot.
Well, why would it doesn't make sense that it would show up one time and not the other.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically the whole thing because it's been, I think, like 3 or 4 years since I've read the book. Mm-hmm. But I just remember that really sticking in my brain, like, dang, because
that's like HIPAA violations.
Yeah, they literally caught him because of her. And she's glad he's caught. Yeah. And, you know, everything. But it was just kind of like, really? Like, that just kind of sucks to be absolutely sure that you're the reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked up to see how many serial killers there are. And it says, according to Scientific America, there are between 25 and 50 serial killers who are active in the United States at any given time.
And Dexter is one of them.
It says serial killers account for only about 150 murders in the U.S. per year, and that serial killing is not a new phenomenon. Well, which we all know.
I mean, those are pretty low numbers, honestly, based on the number of other violent deaths there are. Oh, by the way, it's not 23andMe, it's Family Tree DNA, apparently.
Yeah, okay. I can't remember. It wasn't. Yeah. I knew it was one of them. I didn't know.
But still, it says, that stuff is supposed to be...
Oh, no, this is some BS. So apparently, they say that they will work with law enforcement if an investigation involves a violent crime, denying access to data only if a private subscriber to its database has specifically opted out. So it's an opt-out thing. Otherwise, you are opted into having your stuff used for...
See...
Yeah. So you can opt out.
Yeah.
But who knows that? Because who actually reads all that?
Nobody.
That was one of the reasons I never wanted to do it. I didn't know if you could opt out of them sharing your stuff.
Because it's like even a lot extra for mom and dad's DNA results because it's a private company that does not share information with anybody.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Did you read all the terms and conditions?
I read a lot of them. I did because I was like, I am not going to put them through this because I didn't want to do it myself. So I was not going to expose them to something I didn't.
Like, I don't have any issue with them, like, doing stuff as long as it's anonymized. But, I mean, if it's not anonymized, they can just, like, straight up just give it away.
If they have a match, contact the person. There was a match to someone with a violent crime. Do you want to give up? Can we release your information? Give them the choice.
Yeah.
No, that would make more sense. But that is not how the world works with,
that anyway. Because, and I was telling Ariel about this earlier. One of the things I did last night while I was listening to how they got to find him and everything, I wanted to know if Paul Holtz was the one that was still in active duty whenever they discovered him. And he did find out who he was and was going to retire. And so one evening he decided, before they arrested him or anything, before they even approached him, he decided after work that he was going to just go talk to him by himself. And so he drove to this guy's house and he saw that he was home and, was just sitting there in his truck. And for whatever reason, he was like, I better not. He was like, if I mess this up, I'm retiring tomorrow, turning in my badge tomorrow. I'm just going to go. And he did. He just left. And he was talking about, it was an NPR episode or article or whatever that I was reading. And it was really interesting. He was He was like, I have done cold cases. And so a lot of times you do that by yourself. I've done this lots of times by myself. I've solved, a couple of cases this way. Like I go and do something. I don't really check in.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was one of those things looking back, I feel so stupid for even thinking I should have done it. But, I ended up not, so it's fine. But if I had, what was I thinking?
Well, it wouldn't have made any sense anyway. It could have possibly gotten it to the point where he wouldn't have gotten convicted.
Yeah.
By not following protocol. It's so dumb.
Yeah. Well, that's what he was. He was like, I really was just going to go to the door and be like, oh, hey, because he knew he was law enforcement. They knew pretty much everything about him. And it wasn't clear that it was him. They just knew that he was related to the killer. And which I think is important to note as well. They weren't 1,000,000% positive, but they knew he was at least related if it wasn't him. And so he was just going to be like, hey, we're just, cop to cop. We're doing this investigation. Just let's get it out of the way. Let's do your DNA or something. Because I don't think it was his blood. If he was just related to the killer.
He was probably a family member of somebody that who had it tested. Yeah.
So that's probably,
and then just, you can do your relations that way.
Did it ever say in the interview or did you hear anything about why he stopped killing?
I didn't know.
I wonder what made him stop.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe they didn't find any more.
Got better at hiding the bodies.
Stopped leaving them.
Maybe.
Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe he got too old.
Well, yeah.
I watched a CSI episode about that.
He was pretty old whenever they arrested him.
78.
Yeah.
Oh, he's probably too old and frail.
He didn't look frail.
Well, now he
didn't
is,
look
but-
frail in
Now
the
for sure,
pictures.
but yeah. It's just,
Maybe it just wasn't fun anymore.
I don't know.
It's ugh.
Yeah, I don't know. The more I get into it, though, I really am interested to see if, they noticed anything actually wrong with him mentally. Obviously there is, but, they didn't mention it until it started getting to this point where they're, finding this note that has, all the weird things that some of the victims claim that he would talk to himself or he was talking to somebody else they couldn't ever really know. But sometimes he would cry.
He'd hyperventilate, it sounded like. They were blindfolded, but it was just going off what they could hear.
Yeah.
It sounded like he would go in the other room and hyperventilate and stuff like that. And
sometimes he
would,
usually, he always cried after he raped the women. There was one woman, however, who said that she was certain that he was not actually crying. She said it sounded more like a hysterical laughter. Just one of those really, maniacal.
Yeah.
But it kind of sounds like you would be crying. She was the only one that felt that way, though. Everybody else, said he would cry. And there were times that he would, whisper to himself, I'm sorry, Mom. I don't want to do this. I'm sorry. And so, they also had this theory that he wasn't actually trying to, he wasn't in it just to hurt the women. He was really more in it to hurt the men. Because, essentially, they're making the men unable to protect the women that they are wanting to protect in their lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was one couple specifically and it was the woman who said he wasn't crying, he was laughing. Her husband had a really hard time coping afterwards. And yeah, Paul had called and wanted to talk to the wife, but he wanted to call the husband first to be like, hey, you might be able to broach this subject easier. I'd like to talk to your wife about this. And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. I'll get back to you. I don't think that she'd really be up for it, though. And a couple of, I don't know, a day or not a day, a week or so later, she calls him back and says, I would have called you. You could have just called me. It was my husband who did not want to talk about this again. Just could not deal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just kind of, I don't know. Obviously we wouldn't know because it's what slights had they done? Because he always knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
But if it wasn't the women, what did the men do to him? And
And at first, there was no men involved with it.
Yeah.
That just like, I think it was like a newspaper article or an interview or something like that stated that he was just attacking women. And then after that, he switched it up and started doing couples.
And they talked a lot after a lot of the articles, he would say things to his victims. There was one time he told a woman if he heard about this, like what he was doing on the television or in the newspaper the next day, he would kill the next people. And then he told
the guilt. I mean, the guilt that would.
No, not that this was before he killed anybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the guilt that you would have, it's like, I caused this death.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he told the husband that if he didn't hear about it,
he would kill the next people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He claims, the closest we have for like an explanation is that he claims he had another person inside of him, apparently called Jerry. This is from Sky News, so
Yeah.
don't know if it's real or not. They're claiming to have quoted him and said, "I didn't want to do those things. I pushed Jerry out and had a happy life. I did all those things. I destroyed all their lives, and I've got to pay the price." He's talking about this guy named Jerry who lives inside of him, basically, and made him do stuff.
well, he could have DID.
I don't even... There's a lot of contention about whether DID is even real.
I'm
But that
aware.
wouldn't have been DID at that point.
No, if you have a separate
It sounds more like
personality.
schizophrenia.
Well,
No, it sounds like schizophrenia more.
it could be
'cause it's like
schizophrenia,
people
yeah.
telling you to do things.
But I don't know how you would push that out.
It's
like,
hard to be normal.
with DID,
if you're
you could
schizophrenic.
like shut that personality down because like once you're over whatever it is or through it, some of those personalities disappear.
Yeah.
It's usually brought on by trauma and
It
childhood.
is like childhood trauma, and that would make
Yeah, I
sense.
don't think we have any real... Yeah, no, I just don't think we have any real like information about his childhood.
Yeah.
Usually we do about these people,
Mhm.
but I don't know.
I kind of am fine that we don't. Like, yeah, that's because she mentioned that at one, like whenever she was really talking about this stuff, like usually we find out so much about them that it makes us empathize more. Like my mom was horrible, or I had a bad childhood, or something, and then it's like, well, kind of just an excuse for everything. She's like, I don't really actually like that, and I kind of agree.
So
like,
there's lots of people had horrible childhoods,
Mhm.
though, and they don't all turn out to
Yeah.
be like bad people.
yeah. And that doesn't, and also having a mental health issue does not mean that you're going to be a serial killer or a murderer.
No,
And I think
there's
that,
just something about.
yeah. And I really agree with that. Like, do I get it if people are mentally ill and they commit crimes? Sure. But do I feel like we should always know that about everybody? I don't think so. I don't
And
know.
sometimes it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes the crimes are just so horrific.
It's like one of those things. It's like not all serial killers all serial killers have mental health issues, but not all mental health issued people are serial killers.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The special combination of things that has to happen.
Very special.
Doesn't excuse it. I mean, it is
No.
good
Yeah.
to understand these things. But, I mean, it's like one of those things is like, had these people received any sort of help when they were younger? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably
And
wouldn't have happened,
Maybe it wouldn't matter.
But you can't
Yeah,
know.
maybe it wouldn't matter.
Maybe
Yeah.
No.
it just wouldn't matter. They're just.
It's like the whole Jeffrey Dahmer like mini series that they did. I didn't watch it all. I couldn't watch it all. I got to a certain spot and was like, I can't watch this person die. I don't want to do it anymore. And it was like, it really wanted you to see and feel sorry for Jeffrey Dahmer. Like a lot of people failed him. Like if what they said he did and asked for was true.
Yeah.
But, if it doesn't really matter. Like there were very clear signs. Whenever you take your son outside to work on dead animal carcasses and then encourage that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, what does that mean, dead animal carcasses? Because, I mean, I grew up butchering my own stuff. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like
There's a
roadkill.
difference.
oh,
And,
okay.
like killing things that are under the house, like raccoons and stuff like that, and working on them like science experiments to see how the body was put together. And like, I don't actually know how true any of that
a lot
is.
of kids have went through stuff like that, and it doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah. I think the difference is in that
the creepiness
show.
about it.
Yes, the creepiness about it, but also how distant he was from his dad. And I think probably also, I can't remember, it's been forever since I've watched it now, but like his mom, I think, was absent too. His mom and dad weren't together anymore. And it was just really weird. And I know at one point he asked his dad for help, and his dad was like, military sounds good for you.
That is the answer.
Like,
Wow.
if that really happened, like, he was failed for sure. But
maybe that's all his dad knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like maybe he wasn't trying to be mean. I mean, it sounds like he was, but maybe.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like, I didn't really feel sorry for him after. Like, even knowing if he had a crappy childhood, that didn't make me feel sorry for him. It's like, I just could not watch any more of that show, knowing. Because they showed how good the people that he killed were. And there was one specifically, I could not. I was like, I am not watching this anymore. I don't want to watch it. And so I would prefer to know about the victims. I do not want to empathize with people like that.
But
I mean,
I also want to know how
you should never empathize.
the victims ended up in that situation, just so that you could be aware of it and know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Also,
Well, it sounds like at least in this case, there's nothing. They were doing literally nothing aside from living.
Yeah. And in his mind, probably the men looked at him funny or had a weird interaction to him. Like in situations like that, I mean, yeah, there's not really anything you can do for that.
But I mean, when they show up, it's like they used to tell you that if you are attacked by a bear, just lay down. Well, that's dumb because they're just going to maul you or eat you, and bears are not efficient killers to begin with, so it's not a pleasant, quick process.
Yeah, no, they don't kill you; they just eat you.
Yeah. So fight.
Well, it depends on what kind of bear, right?
No, you fight.
So is this black bear, brown bear myth is a myth? I mean,
I would
where
not.
Say you're supposed to lay down for one of them, and the other one you're supposed to fight back
but
for.
the black bear don't. You fight the black bear. But I mean, it's like stand your ground, like bluff them out. I mean, I have seen a mouse take down a cat, pretty much.
Yeah,
because they fight back, and they're not expecting you to fight back. So
yeah, it's like those videos of like mountain lions or whatever coming at people, and they get real loud and real big.
Yeah. I mean, really, bears are the same way.
Yeah.
If you just come across one or one comes across you, you just get real big and say, no,
Yeah,
and they
have to have that
for
like
legal reasons.
Yeah.
Don't listen to any of our advice.
Well, no.
Right. Yeah.
The ruffians, they told me to do that.
Yeah, no, don't. But I mean, this is my own personal feeling on this.
Yeah.
I do not recommend it to everybody else. You got to handle your own situation.
Yes.
But I just think that, I mean, it's like, but in like self-defense training, they will tell you never let somebody take you to a second location.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if they have a gun or a knife at your throat, because
Oh, no, if you go to a second location, you're dead.
you're dead.
Yeah, I'd rather die where people can see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or maybe people could help and you wouldn't die. But
I mean, yes, but I mean, if I'm at that point, I'd just be like, I would rather die right here. I have these scenarios that I play out in my head, and because I've been told so many times that if I got into an altercation, I would end up dead real fast because I got a mouth.
No, you.
And I think I would get to the point, like, I was thinking about this the other day, that someone, because we talk about how in the library, how we have, like, was it the kill zones or whatever,
Yeah, when I was thinking about disaster plans, the kill boxes.
Kill box, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, and I thought, if somebody came in with a gun, I really feel like I'd be like, really? Put your gun down, fight me like a man.
And the thing is,
to just shame them into it.
And the thing is, I'd let you do that so that I could go around from behind him and then just jump him.
Yeah. I'd be like,
that's
what are
so
you going to do?
That's
Shoot me?
That's some total,
Yeah. I'd probably get shot, and then
I'd really have to
the
kill him.
adrenaline would kick in, and I would be like real mad.
What have you done? Yeah.
I really like this outfit.
I felt cute today. How dare you?
Oh, that's the way you do it. I felt cute today.
I mean, seriously though, I had a man, or not a man, it was a guy my age, pull a knife on me in high school, and he goes, "You're gonna have to pay me for protection." And I was like, "No, you're not. I'm not doing that. Good try though." He had a knife pointed at me, like right up against my stomach. And I was like, what are you going to do? Cut me?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's exactly the mentality I had. So I would end up dead.
I'm afraid you get that from me.
We
I will
also
stand
don't endorse
right
acting
here,
like
buddy.
this.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, once I'm pushed past a certain point, I am stupidly stubborn.
Yeah.
And it's not a good thing.
Me too.
It's not a recommended reaction.
So everybody listening, don't bring stuff into the library because we're dumb.
Yep. Not only that, it's like we're also mean.
We are mean.
We would heckle you while we died.
Yeah.
You think that's
you
efficient?
kill me with a gun? Can actually get up in my face? Huh? You scared I'm going to hit you?
This is all bravado, guys. All bravado. I think it'll be much different if something actually happens.
I don't know.
And hopefully it never will.
Yeah, no, I don't want to find out. But
Considering
honestly,
my reaction in high school, I don't know.
sometimes how I react to things surprises even me. We don't know.
Yeah,
It's
sometimes
really-
things come out of my mouth and I'm like, oh, probably shouldn't have said that.
Maybe I'll be a mom. We don't know. Like, hey,
Okay,
you want to talk
guys,
about it?
Do not get me killed trying to protect you. That's what I'm just-
See, the thing
You're
is,
calling 911. That is your
we're
job.
the distraction. Okay, we're like the old men Muppets.
Yeah.
and we
No, I'd
we
be over
distract.
here like, I'm not associated with them. I'm still freaked out.
No, yeah, don't look at anybody else. It's just us. Everybody else get out of the building.
I mean, especially if we had people in here or kids in here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
if I was
I
in
don't
a
even wanna
story
think about
time and
that.
someone came in, oh no.
I mean, wouldn't it be better if you're going to be like this just to tackle the person?
I mean, possibly.
yeah.
I mean, just
See, that's the thing though. If one of us distracts, the other
Yeah.
can go
Yeah.
in. That's the thing. You interact with one
One
and the other
tackles.
gets you.
And then the other, comes in.
okay, that you've given away all of our secrets now. so
Nah,
they're gonna be
because they don't know
prepared.
who it is.
It's okay. Nobody
They don't
listens
know.
to the podcast
They don't know
in the
who's going.
first place, so.
They haven't seen our faces.
I'm sure the 23 people would know us on sight.
Well, yeah,
Or
but
if you opened your mouth, it'd be like, oh, that's the one.
yeah, but
That's
they're
it. There
they're
it
not
is.
going to come murder us though.
No,
Like we don't
no.
have to worry about
No,
them.
they don't. They won't do it because our cackles are so unhinged. They'll
Oh
be
yeah.
like, yeah.
We probably could take
Well, no,
somebody
there
out
is
with a
that.
cackle.
There is that.
There's a reason we still cackle, Carla, and it's
I think
to
I'm going to move
keep
to
off
Seattle
predators.
so I can move in with you. Just so you're
Probably a better
warned.
plan. Oh.
Just walk away from it all.
One thing in this book that I kind of wanted to mention was the fact that they were talking about how rapists are usually thought of as dumb and it's like crimes of passion or
Mhm.
whatever.
It's not.
And
It's power.
they were it's kind of fits into the same thing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, kind of.
I don't think so.
With how they're subcategorizing, it fits.
Okay. I don't believe you, but okay.
Well, you don't have to believe me. That's fine. See if I care.
Keep on talking.
Anyways, so they were having a hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that this guy was so methodical and thought out and smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know if
Maybe they're just perverted.
who the.
The rapists.
I mean, I think that kind of goes with the
Well, I mean,
territory.
there
of
is
being a
there
rapist.
is different levels to that.
But yeah, they were talking about how most rapists start off as peeping toms and all
Yeah.
this stuff, and they're not intelligent
Yep.
individuals and yada yada yada. And I wonder if him and having this case and whatnot has altered their thought process with
It might. It should.
serial rapists.
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
Because there's more to it than
I think it should as well. If it didn't,
I don't know if it
should.
has.
Yeah.
when I was in college. I was on the 12th floor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mom would say, you make sure you lock those windows. And I'm thinking, who's going to come in? Spider-Man, Superman, Dracula. Not going to do a thing to stop any of those guys. So
Nope. Might invite
windows locked or
Superman
not.
in.
Huh?
I said I could see you inviting Superman in.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
You'd
Or
be like,
even
oh yes,
Spider-Man.
absolutely.
And the vampire, you have to invite them in. So you could just be like, no.
Yep. This is not your window. Find another.
Nay, nay, sir.
But she said, I remember during the same time that this guy was running around the Cottageville, Mount Alto area, I mean, he never did anything but except look in windows, but that I know of. And swore up and down she saw, I would have swear she said someone looking in the bedroom window because you could see that window from the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was just me and her there by ourselves. So I was probably about, 13. I went outside and looked. What was I thinking? And then she said it was something.
Oh, no, that was real dumb.
Yeah, I know. Then she was like, it was something. It was like, it was basically, she described almost like a Bigfoot type thing.
Oh.
It's no wonder I'm terrified.
See, here's the thing. If you know that you have a peeping Tom, right?
Mhm.
And like you see that they're coming, if you hid underneath your window and then you pop up and go, boom, that would be the best.
Okay, but like I think you've gotten to it. But at one point, a teenage girl was like going to bed and she heard something like at the bottom of her window, and I knew. I said, "Don't open it, baby girl. Don't do it." But she did. She opened her window and looked down, and she said that he was just staring up at her, and he got frightened and ran away. But it still is like.
That's a big chance.
Stop opening your windows, okay? We can tell that all of these women are white.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like a lot of things, like at my house, when I hear things outside, and God knows I'm an idiot sometimes. I've walked out, because I'm the only adult.
Yeah.
So like I'm not. And my kids are like, don't go out there. I'm like, I have to go out here to make sure that there's because I don't want anything to be like creeping up on us and us not know.
Yeah.
Right. If I'll take something out, like a baseball bat or something like that, but like, I remember at one point I got woke up at like 3:00 in the morning with police officers knocking on my door.
Yeah. That's when
And what did I do? I go and open it and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, somebody's been driving the 4-wheelers around. Have you heard anyone? I was like, no, I've been asleep. And they just kind of stood there and stared at me for a minute and I stared back at them. And then I was like, okay. And I shut the door, but there was like two of them standing at my door in the middle of the night, and
I thought that was the night they heard the screaming.
They did hear screaming, but there was like there's a woman screaming. They got called, and they found 4-wheeler tracks going through my yard, supposedly. I don't know.
I think they were just casing the area.
But
Probably.
it was like
Sounds like it.
weird to me, like
because where could they have went in your yard? I mean, it's like.
Yeah.
Woods on 3 sides.
Yes.
Then you just had to run in your yard and do donuts and then leave.
And I have no, and I don't know. Like in the morning, I did not see any 4-wheeler tracks.
Mm-hmm. They just made it up. But now Ron heard the screaming that night and we're like a mile away.
Yeah. I was asleep. But like, I don't know how I woke up to the knocking. That's the thing. That's what it was like. How long or how loud were they knocking?
Probably pretty loud.
To wake me up.
Cops
and not
normally knock pretty loud anyway.
And not to wake my kids up, though.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. I'm told I knock like a cop.
Bang, 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 bang.
I don't bang on the door. I guess like
you're
knock
very
with the
assertive.
right part of my
You're an assertive
I guess.
knocker.
Everybody's always like, you knock like a cop. I'm like, you know what else I do? I name the Gatorade flavors and not the colors. And that also makes me a cop, I
that
guess.
does make her a cop. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Whoa. You people, they don't say the flavors?
No.
I say, like, my favorite one is Riptide Rush.
Absolutely not.
Fellow cop.
Yell at cops. I ain't telling you any of the sketchy
don't
crap
like
I
grape.
do.
Cool blue.
Or the
Cool blue
lemon.
is me.
We got some
Cool
blue.
Cool Blue's not
We
bad.
got light blue. We got white. We got green.
I don't even drink
Which
it.
green though?
I think it's yucky.
The dark green.
Although I will
I don't
say,
even know which one that is.
the
I think it's green apple. And the
Oh,
only reason
okay.
I know that is because I've frozen it into ice cubes before to make slushies.
Oh, actually, that would be pretty good.
the white one I just call sweat flavor because it looks gross.
Ew, yeah. Mm-mm.
It's
It's just
a cherry flavor or something too. It's
Yeah,
like a weird
white
It
one.
is
cherry.
something weird,
It's
yeah.
white cherry. I hate cherry flavored
There's
things.
no such thing as a
so-
white cherry.
Oh, Gatorade there is.
There's white cherries.
Gatorade.
They don't look, they're not white,
They're like
but I mean, they're like
light
lighter
pink.
The
colored.
pink, yeah.
That would be a pink cherry.
That's what I say about what's the purple lettuce? What's that called? Or even red onions. Those are purple.
You talking about
They
red
are
cabbage?
purple.
Yes.
It's red. They call
Yeah.
it red.
Why did I say lettuce? I don't know. But either way,
There is
they're
purple
both
lettuce.
purple. I hate it.
Or there is red lettuce.
Yeah.
It's like a really dark.
Yeah.
Purple
That
color.
bothers me.
It's like white horses are grays
Mhm.
and gray rabbits
Yeah,
are
there's
blue.
no such thing as a white horse.
Yep.
So are gray cats.
yeah,
they're blue.
they're blue.
So anyway, I do highly recommend this book. If you are into true crime, I would say this is probably one of the best done true crimes I've ever gone into. And she spent a large chunk of her life doing this. And I am very sad.
Yeah, she said she got into it because a girl, when she was 13 or 14, her, like, one of the neighbor girls got murdered in an alley.
And they never found
found the guy who did it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of murders go unsolved.
Yeah.
Which you would think, you would think it'd be easier now to find people.
But I wonder if, like, this is happening, right? And if you have the thought process to do this. Now, I know that during the situation you probably wouldn't. But if you just start screaming out what they look like.
Oh, that might be a good idea.
6 foot, blonde hair.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Weird gimp.
Yeah.
Tattoo.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that might save somebody?
You could also, like, you could really just get one of your, like, true crime besties and put them on your ICE on your phone and dial them and then just, like, say that stuff.
Yeah.
Just FYI, it's about half of all murders go unsolved.
Wow.
That's a
crazy.
very large number.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So there's like 256,000 right now.
I've
That are
told my
unsolved?
kids, too, that if someone ever comes up to them and tries to take them or whatever, I was like, you scream fire.
Mm-hmm.
And drop to the ground.
I'm like,
and
you.
kick.
I was like, you fight with everything you have in you. I was like, you bite, you claw, you kick, you scream fire. And Rowan asked me, she's like, why wouldn't I scream, help or something like that? I was like, because people don't listen.
No.
Yeah, people don't come to help. Like, that happened to me a while back. Somebody was yelling for help. And I was like, hey, am I going to go do this? So I walked over.
But yeah, so.
That's crazy.
It's like, yeah, people just don't do it.
Yeah.
Also, I think that a lot of the reason why the murder solved cases is so low now, and it used to be higher, is because, in theory, cops need evidence now instead of just making stuff up or extracting.
Just making stuff
up.
I personally, I feel like
They
a
were
lot
straight
of,
because they pick somebody and
That's it.
like this person did it, and then they make them admit to it.
well,
That has happened a lot.
There's specifically at least one person in here that they talk about pretty much confessed that they killed a couple when he actually didn't. So he spent most of his life in jail. And then whenever DNA came around and
Was
they
that
linked
Martinez guy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So whenever DNA
That's
finally
happened
came
a lot of
around,
times,
they matched him to the, like, not that guy, not the guy in jail, but the ear guy. They connected him to those murders and he finally got exonerated.
Cops are legally allowed to lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which seems uncool. I
No,
think
it's time for us
as
to go.
far as true crime books, which I don't like to read because I find them upsetting.
Yeah.
This one does sound like a
This one's good because she sticks mostly to, like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Like, she does go off and, talk a little bit about, like, what got her into it.
Mm-hmm.
She talked about her mom for a while, and I was kind of like, what does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I will say one of the last things I meant to mention this earlier. Michelle was asking Paul at one point. Maybe it wasn't Paul. Maybe it was an older officer who had retired since then. I can't remember specifically, but why or how he could have gotten away so many times, like with neighbors being so, like, everybody was on very high alert during all of this.
yeah.
And he kind of chuckled at her and said, we tested this theory one night. Me and a couple of other officers on duty, like, we put on black clothes, all black everything, and we just ran through the streets. We looked and, we stopped and looked in windows to see if we could be seen. We hid behind trees. We did all, like, we took the routes that we thought he would take. And it was amazing.
People are oblivious.
Yeah, it was amazing. The
And
things
not only
that we could do.
like, if you, like, say he goes out and he's wearing, he wore, like, army pants or whatever a lot. As long as you act like you're part of the crowd, people don't notice you.
Well, they don't notice anyway. When I was at that training in New Jersey, it was all about, like, survival and awareness and stuff like that. Well, they had set up this one area with a little shelter And they were like, who would like to, try out the shelter? Well, the young guys were like, oh, it'd be me. They were all excited. And they slide into this shelter and are laying on it. And about that time, 2 hands come up out of the ground and grab them.
No.
There was like, yeah.
Immediately no.
There was like a pit underneath it, and they had, it was a trap, basically.
Nope.
And then the instructor was like, okay, everybody come out. And there was at least, I don't know, 8 or 9 people within arm's reach of some people that stood up from the bushes. They were in the trees over our heads.
Nope.
It's like people.
Negative ghost predator.
Of all the times to be aware, because we had hints all week long about stuff like this.
Yeah.
We should have been paying more attention, but we weren't.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of them.
I'm very unobservant anyway. If somebody were going to come get me, they probably could.
I don't know. I'm at home, I would say I'm aware. At work, I am not. And when it comes to noticing things about people, do not ever ask me to explain what somebody looks like. I will pick the most obscure thing that caught my attention, and I'll be like, I have no clue what color hair they had, but they had this weird mole right under their eye.
Yep. But sometimes that stuff is really key.
I mean, yes, it is, yes. But it's just I pick the weirdest things. But like at home, I almost always know when someone's at my house.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
you're just on your alert.
I'm on alert. I am on alert because I am the only adult there. I have 3 children that I got to take care of. Granted, I do have Queen, and I can tell the difference between her, that's a deer bark.
Yeah.
And there's somebody in the driveway bark.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things. It's like moms. Like, you can tell the difference between cries of your kid.
And she is a scary dog.
Oh, man.
Yeah. She's a chicken, but she is a scary dog.
Oh, she's intimidating.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Jasmine, like my brother's golden retriever. Golden retrievers are not usually good guard dogs. Jasmine is a guard dog.
Really?
There was one time whenever my brother had his shop down there in Fairplain, and we had Jasmine at the shop a lot of the times, and she would lay in the office with me. And one time, the FedEx guy dropped off some paints for him. He knocked on the door, and Jasmine, I've never heard her bark so awfully. Like, I was terrified she was actually going to murder that guy. And like, he went back to his car and was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, she's literally a golden retriever. I don't know. I've never heard her sound like that. I'm very sorry. And he started laughing. I let her out the door. She went right up to him and like just loved on him. He was like, that's not the dog I heard. I was like, yeah, it sure was. She's the only one here. And my brother and his friend Zach came running. Like, they were from the other end of that shop all the way to where I was within like 10 seconds flat. It was so funny. But yeah, she's a good guard dog.
That's good.
It's surprising because you don't expect golden retrievers to really.
No.
I mean, if somebody got in and was like, oh, here, puppy, she'd be all about it. But she'd we would have to know.
You got your warning.
Yeah. She let you know. Any last final thoughts? I do highly recommend this for true crime people. Even if you're not really into true crime and you kind of maybe want to dip your toes in, this would be a good one. It's not super duper graphic. It does talk about this stuff though, and it talks about this stuff in a very not cold or clinical, but it's just very straightforward and it's not embellishing. She does talk about her obsession a lot with finding him and her thought process and how she worked with police and detectives and stuff like that. It's not only the police findings and everything like that. It's the kind of things that she did. She went down some good rabbit holes, and it's wild. But yeah, that's going to be us for today. Our next episode, we will be discussing my deep dive book, Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant. That one's about mermaids. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. It was really fun. And then we're going to have a new book chat. And then after that, Ariel and I will be bringing you a curiosities on mermaids and lore alike.
I'm excited about
Me too,
it.
Actually. It's mermaid month. Okay. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's time for us to sign off. But before we go, only the best libraries have librarians who don't shush you. We will distract you, though.